Hello and welcome to another episode of SPL Express. As we look ahead to match week 21 in the Singapore Premier League, we have Rhysh, Roshan, here, as always, to give us a lowdown on what we can expect for the weekend. But before that, let's look back on what happened last weekend and how that's affected the standings. What a weekend it was. Goals galore, 29 goals scored across 4 matches. The weekend kicked off with Balestier Khalsa picking up their biggest win in SPL history. They beat Hougang 6-1 at the Toa Payoh Stadium. Tampines Rovers came back from 2 goals down to beat Tanjong Pagar 4-3, while the Lion City Sailors look at that result 10-1 against the Young Lions, and Albirex Niigata snatched a late draw against Geylang International. So the Sailors continue to lead the way with a 3-point advantage over Albirex Niigata at the top of the league. Tanjong Pagar remain third, but Tampines Rovers are closing in, trailing by a point with a game in hand. Hougang, Geylang and Balestier Khalsa meanwhile are separated by just 5 points. This week sees Albirex entertain Tampines Rovers in what's a crucial clash for both teams. Lion City Sailors play Tanjong Pagar on Saturday, while Hougang and Young Lions lock horns. And on Sunday, Geylang International are in action against Balestier Khalsa. So lots to talk about. Let's start with the Albirex versus Tampines clash. Roshan, both teams, very entertaining styles of football. What can we expect from this game?
It should be lots of goals, hopefully. I mean, from what we've seen of these two sides in the first 2 meetings, 11 goals, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the first 2 games between Albirex and Tampines Rovers. And the two sides who are very good in possession. They get the ball forward and they're able to create lots of chances against the opposition. And I'd expect a lot of that in this game. I mean, we've seen from Albirex the kind of goal-scoring form that they've been in. Tampines seem to be able to find a way through most defences in the league, and especially against this Albirex Niigata side. So I think we'll see goals in this one, especially when you think about how both defences have looked a little bit shaky over the last few weeks or so. Especially with Albirex, Tampines have defensively had issues all season long. So I think we should be seeing lots of chances in this game.
Well, there's also the race for the Golden Boot. Tanaka up against Kapitovic.
Yeah.
What kind of battle is that going to be?
It's going to be a fascinating one, you know, and sort of a direct battle in the sense that hopefully both these players will be on the pitch. Tanaka will be wanting to try and get himself in front in the race for the Golden Boot, Kapitovic as well. I think for Tanaka, he's sort of got 2 targets in his mind, right? One is, yes, the Golden Boot on an individual level, but he's also going to want to try and use his goals to fire them towards the title and trying to work towards being a team player in that sense. Whereas I think for Kapitovic, Tampines aren't in the title race. Yes, they want to try and finish as high up in the table as they possibly can, but he's got that individual target in his mind of wanting to achieve something for himself. I mean, these are 2 players who will go into this game in a fantastic run of form. Kapitovic has already scored 4 goals this season against Albirex. Tanaka has scored twice in the 2 meetings. So they will be, you know, the focal point especially will be Kapitovic for Tampines Rovers, whereas for Tanaka, we've touched on his impact coming in off the left-hand side. So he won't exactly be that focal point. So a bit of tactical variation in terms of how these 2 attacking players are being used.
We mentioned the Albirex and the title, the search for the title. Now, 2 weeks ago, if they won all their games, they would be on top right now.
Yeah.
How much of that will be playing in the mind knowing that they could have been on top at this position?
I feel like every time I praise a team in the SPL, I jinx them a little bit for some reason. I mean, I talked about Hougang previously, and I said, you know, they look like things were starting to come together, and then they go on to lose 6-1 to Balestier. I've praised Albirex for looking like a team that's coming into a great run of form and looking in control of the games, and then suddenly now it's 2 draws from the last 3 games. And the worrying thing is that there's 2 games where they've managed to rescue a point from against Hougang, and then recently in their last match, very late on against Geylang, that 2-2 draw. So I wonder if, you know, certain players are feeling a little bit of that fatigue. Remember, this isn't a side that makes a lot of changes. Yoshinaga doesn't tend to refresh and change things around with his side. So is there a little bit of that fatigue coming on, and they're starting to feel a little bit of that pressure as well? For me, Kan Kobayashi hasn't quite looked himself, Albrex's number 10, over the last couple of matches. So, you know, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how they deal with this threat from Tampines Rovers. I still think Albirex have the quality to win this game, but as we've seen in the previous meetings between these 2 sides, it will be a close run thing. And whether Albirex can sort of get over this mini slump, I would call it, and try and get themselves, you know, put that pressure on the Lion City Sailors, will be fascinating to see this weekend.
Well, let's shift our attention to the Lion City Sailors. They're up against Tanjong Pagar United this week. But before that, what was interesting in their win over the Young Lions, they beat them 10-1 last week. was their post-match interview with their interim head coach, Luka Lalić. Let's have a listen to it first.
I think that over the last 2 days and getting to know these guys a little bit more, my feeling was that they were not really happy in the last couple of weeks, months, and they didn't enjoy their football. Really, my message to them was just take this time to enjoy yourself, this transition period, especially today's game, and then from Monday we're gonna turn a new page and make a new start.
So some very interesting insight from the interim head coach there. Basically what he's saying is that the players were not happy under the stewardship of Kim Do-hoon.
Yeah, interesting choice of words. I mean, listen, we'd heard rumors around that there was some unhappiness and, you know, that things weren't quite clicking. And we've spoken on the show previously about Lion City Sailors, and now it doesn't seem like they have that identity in their side. I'm not quite sure what they are. We saw against the Young Lions them scoring 10 goals, but then as Lalić has also said in his post-match interview that he's not going to look at this result and think, you know, things are right immediately, because quite rightly the Young Lions have struggled against lots of teams this season. So for the Sailors, I mean, it's a good pick-me-up, a good little tonic. Players, of course, seem to be playing with a bit more freedom. Let's see how it goes against some of the other sides in the league. You know, I don't think the Young Lions are a good sort of barometer of the quality in the league. So there will be bigger challenges for the Sailors. And look, now it's up to the players now, right, to sort of show that they can play with a lot more freedom, that they can express themselves, and they can go on and win matches and get that consistency in terms of the results.
Now, there's been a lot said about the appointment of Lalić as interim head coach, especially ahead of the likes of Robin Chitraka and all that. But the thing is that with a team like this, do you think they need to be coached heavily?
No. I don't think they need to be coached heavily. I don't think with the quality of players that they have, I don't think you want to put too much on them. You know, you look across the world of football as well. Some of the best coaches, you know, are good motivators, and they know how to sort of. They don't teach these players how to cross, how to shoot, how to do this, how to do that. It's all about sort of setting that style within the team and telling them how you want them to play within that team structure. You know, and I think the most important thing as well, and these days in football especially, is about respecting the players, getting them to buy into respecting you as well, treating them like human beings, making sure that they're happy. Ultimately, it's a game of confidence, and if you can get them happy, relaxed, and playing, that quality will start to come through. Because, let's face it, and we've said this before, we've praised them so many times, this is a team with lots and lots of quality. They just perhaps need someone to come in there and give them a little bit of structure, a little bit of identity, and then leave it to the players to go out and deliver on the pitch. I'm not sure what their longer-term plans are. I don't know if they'll stick with Luka Lalić. That's a discussion for something in the longer term. But at the moment, I think what he's just got to do is, you know, just analyze game by game, pick out those weaknesses in the opposition for his players to go out and express themselves, and just try and keep them relaxed and happy as we come into the closing stages of the season.
Well, let's talk about Tanjong Pagar. 3 defeats in a row.
Yeah.
Hazrin spoke after the game saying that he's taken the positives from these defeats. Are there any positives for Tanjong Pagar at this point?
I think perhaps from the last game, the fact that maybe they fought, they showed some good fight and some determination.
But we always see that from the Tanjong Pagar side.
Well, I don't know. I don't. For most of the games this season, we have seen that from them. But in terms of that 3 successive defeats, the one before the Tampines game, did we really see enough from Tanjong Pagar? I mean, we touched on the fact that they're looking a little bit fatigued mentally and maybe physically as well. And this game the last game against Tampines Rovers, would have been a bit of a blow. It was, again, a very close contest. But defensively, again, they're a side who tried to sit back and they tried to make things difficult. They try to make things difficult to break down, but that's not been the case. They do allow lots of opportunities for the opposition. So perhaps the positives are that he's trying to say that he saw players starting to fight back, starting to show that mentality again. But they need to figure out a way to get those results once more, because look, it's starting to look like they could lose their position on the table in the standings come the end of the campaign. And this game, some of the team news that we're seeing here is that Zafan might be missing with an injury, and if he is missing, that will be a big blow for Tanjong Pagar, because I think he's been fantastic for them in goal. We also know Rishuto is going to be suspended, accumulation of yellow cards, and he will be a huge miss in central midfield. I think he's really that player who drives the game for them in terms of their aggression. So a couple of key players, one definitely missing, one potentially missing in key positions for this Tanjong Pagar United side.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. Let's talk about Hougang up against the Young Lions. That's on Saturday as well. Hougang, as you said before, you thought that they turned the corner. But then last week, they got spanked by Balestier 6-1. And what was even more worrying was the body language of the players. What's going wrong with the club?
It looks like there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There are lots of issues that need to be addressed at the club. There's talk about, some players, again, unhappy with being asked to play in certain positions and then obviously being dropped from the side. There's talk previously about the coaching staff and some of the issues that they've had here and there previously during the AFC Cup campaign. Lots of these things have been reported and about these issues that are going on behind the scenes. And even with Hougang, for example, they came into this campaign, I thought, a side that would be challenging for the title, and that they're struggling the way that they are. It's really not been good enough for them, this campaign. It really has been very poor. And they're another side, again, defensively, who have all sorts of issues. They're so loose at the back, whether it's individuals making mistakes, whether it's an issue with the tactical structure, whatever it is, it's something they have to fix and they have to sort out. But yeah, it's not looking good. And just when you think they've sort of turned the corner and starting to improve, they're going to regress back to that poor stuff that we've seen from them this season. And that defeat was a shocking one, a shocking result against Balestier Khalsa to lose by 6-1.
But how important is this game against Young Lions for Hougang? Because if they lose this,
yeah,
it could be serious problems in the club.
I don't think any professional side in the league should be losing to the Young Lions, especially this version of the Young Lions. So it's a game that could give them a bit of a confidence boost in terms of going out and playing against a side who have been poor this year, to try and pick up 3 points. But again, it's about the next matches that are coming up for them. So it could give them a little bit of a tonic here up against the Young Lions. They'll be missing Pedro Bortoluzo, Nazrul Nazari through suspension, as it's been reported. So those two, again, players who will be a big miss for them, especially Pedro Bortoluzo up front, who's been in a good run of form in terms of getting those goals. Just when things were looking like they were starting to click, it's starting to fall apart for Hougang again.
Let's now talk about Geylang International up against Balestier Khalsa. News just in, Balestier are going to part ways with their head coach Akbar Nawas, who will take charge of the team for this weekend against Geylang.
Yeah.
What do you make of the news, Roshan?
Weird in terms of the timing, but I guess it's an opportunity that has come about for him, and it's an opportunity that he needs to take. So we'd like to wish him all the very best in whatever he does, moving to Thai League 2 with Udon Thani. And I think it just comes at a bad time for Balestier because, they had looked like the results were going their way a little bit over the last couple of weeks or so in the SPL, and they put themselves in the conversation to move even higher up the standing. So it's an opportunity, I guess, for his players to give him a good farewell, a good goodbye with performances in the next 2 games for him under his charge potentially, and maybe they'll be able to give Geylang a bit of a fight.
What have you made of his reign this year? Because there's a lot expected of Balestier because they said they want to change the style of play, they want to have a new identity.
Yeah, there's a lot of that talk in pre-season about bringing him in and wanting to change the style of play, and I don't think that has quite panned out. But I think Akbar, in my view, is a very good coach, and I think he did a job that as best as he possibly could with the tools that were given to him. And I don't think they had the strongest of squads, Balestier Khalsa. I don't think he had a great level of support in terms of the squad that was given to him. That Toa Payoh Stadium pitch is very difficult to play passing football on as well. So I think, with what he had available to him, I think he was able to try and squeeze out what he possibly could. So, I don't think it's a blemish on his record, really, because you have to look at the bigger picture. And the fact that they're there with 20 points heading into this weekend, and that if they beat Geylang, they're up there now as well, again, and only a point behind the Eagles. So that they are where they are. I think it's a credit to him, and of course the contributions of the Japanese players that they've had, especially Hoshino, who's going to be suspended for this one, and he will be a miss for them in those forward areas.
A quick one about Geylang. They drew that game, the last game against Albirex 2-2, but they've had a decent run of form. What have you been most impressed with this Eagle side? I
think the performances have been very good, and not just the performances. Now the results are starting to match those performances, and that leads to increase in confidence in the side. Spoke to Zaiful recently as well. He said that now the players are feeling like they can go on and win matches, and they're starting to get that reward for the effort that they've been putting in. They look a lot more organized defensively as well. Geylang, they're able to shut up shop, as we saw against Albirex Niigata in the first half especially, and in the second half they sort of let go of the 3 points very late on. but there were some very impressive aspects to their defensive work in the opening 45 minutes of that game. The fact that up front now they're creating opportunities, they're creating chances, and they're putting those chances away. Sime Zuzul's on a great run of form, 7 goals in his last 7 matches. Bezako as well, who I was a little bit critical of in terms of those numbers, not his effort, not his quality, but in terms of those goal-scoring numbers, and he's improved on that as well. So his numbers are going up, his assist numbers are going up as well. And when you've got these 2 players, important players in key positions that help you win matches, it's important that they are in a nice confident mood and those goals are flowing for them. And I think it's been very impressive what Noali has done with this Geylang international side over the last few weeks or so, and the results that they've been getting.
Well, so much of football to look forward to. Our feature game of the week is Lion City Sailors up against Tanjong Pagar. That's live from the Jalan Besar Stadium. Coverage begins from 5 p.m. Join Shazad Haq and Shashi Kumar as they preview the game ahead of kickoff. So that's all the time we have for this week's episode of SPL Express. Thank you, Roshan. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget you can catch all the action live on our YouTube channel. Till next week, goodbye.